Hey guys, how's everybody doing? Welcome to our first ever Financial Fridays, where every Friday I will try and discuss either a topic that's going on currently in the news, or just giving out some financial information, or just discussing something. But it's going to happen on Friday, Financial Friday, so stay tuned every Friday to get some financial information or discuss some topics within that sector. So with that, today's topic is going to be on inflation, because inflation right now is a hot topic in the business world, and I want to hopefully break it down for you so that you can kind of understand how inflation, why this is such a big topic, and how inflation is really about to affect you within the next 6 months, 6 to 12 months, right? Because that's exactly what's about to happen. You're about to be affected by it, and hopefully I can explain it for you in a way that you can understand. So inflation is, you're going to see me looking at my notes. So I took some notes here to kind of stay on topic, because I can meander, I can be very verbose, and sometimes get off topic, and off track. So that's why I got my notes here. So inflation is a big topic currently, because right now we're in the end game stages of the pandemic, right? We're getting vaccines and we're trying to get back to a period of normalcy where we are operating at normal levels in the business sense, right? These businesses are opening up and people are coming back. On top of that, the pandemic itself created a shortage in supply for products, and at the same time increased the demand for those products. Anybody that understands supply and demand understands that high demand means high prices, right? When you have a large supply and a little bit of demand, you're going to have low prices, right? Because you want to make it attractive for people to come in, and you want to increase that demand so people start buying more. If the supply is really, really low, but you have this really, really massive amount of demand, there's not enough supply to provide everybody who wants some, right? So when you have that, you have to make the prices really, really expensive to kind of taper that demand a little bit. And reduce the demand. Only the people that are going to be able to afford it at a high price are going to be able to purchase it at a value, right? So you have that. And then before the pandemic started, we were in a trade war with China. So that's like 2017, 2018, somewhere around there, right? We were in a trade war. We are still currently in that trade war. Just because the pandemic happened, we haven't talked about it in a while, doesn't mean we're not still at this trade war with China, right? Which is starting to come back more into the news because the pandemic is starting to wane. So we need a new topic to talk about, right? Now, on top of all of that, add on what Biden just said, he's going to increase wages and capital gains taxes. So I just listed a whole bunch of things that are all working in favor of pushing inflation. Now, for those of you in this country that are not invested in any form of asset whatsoever, so that means you don't own a business, you don't own any securities like stocks or bonds or ETFs or futures or whatever it is, you don't own any of those assets, and you don't have any real estate, so you're not invested in anything, you're going to feel the effect of inflation way worse than those people that I just mentioned. So if you're making under $50,000 and you're struggling to pay your bills and survive day to day, or week to week, month to month, you have what you need, but you can't move forward in life because you need a little bit more money, so you can invest and do those things and expand your economical network. If you're not doing those things, you're going to struggle. Just straight up. You need to be invested right now, like today, because inflation will affect assets, right? assets appreciate over time, but they only do that because of inflation. So if you're not holding on to assets, nothing you have is going to appreciate and is actually going to depreciate in value. That doesn't make it a liability. It just means that the value of it is going to depreciate because the dollar's value is going to depreciate. So anything that holds a dollar's value is going to depreciate, right? As the value depreciates. You really, really, really want to focus on these things. All right, so let's go through them kind of a little bit at a time. The pandemic. It's been what, 2 years? Yeah, like 2019, 2020, 2021. It's almost 3 years, like 2.5, 3 years. We've been dealing with this COVID, and businesses have been dealing with COVID due to the lack of people being able to go into these businesses and spend their money in physical stores. A lot of companies that their primary institutions are physical locations, right? They're not 100% online. A lot of where the revenue comes from physical buildings. Well, businesses like that took a hit, especially small mom and pop stores. They took a super huge hit on things like this because of the pandemic. They just weren't getting the profit and revenue that they were used to getting. Their profit and revenue dropped over the past 2 years, and they've been dealing with that. So now they have to recoup those losses. A lot of these companies are going to be looking to recoup these losses that they just took over the past 2 years. We're talking about companies that were sitting on millions of dollars of cash reserves that were just sitting there. They had to burn through that to protect their company. They had to take out loans and get loans from the government. It's costing them more money. So this pandemic has really made a lot of companies struggle financially because they had to adjust rather quickly. It was not something that they had planned on or planned for, and they had to readjust. So now what you're going to see is that the economy's opening back up. What's going to happen is these companies that lost all that money, they're going to try and recoup that loss. And the first way that they're going to do that is raise their prices. It's the quickest way for them to try and get more money out of your pocket. Not only that, you have more money in your pocket. Why? Because for the past like 30 years, they've just been giving us stimuluses. They literally just gave us a $2,000 stimulus within the past like 6 months to a year. You've just received $2,000. So there are tons of people in America right now who may not have actually needed that money that are sitting on now their own reserves of cash. All right, which leads me to my next point. The pandemic in that environment created a shortage of supply. So you've got Americans with tons of money in their pocket who are eager to spend that money, and they can't, right? Because the items that they want, they can't get because of the pandemic, right? COVID kind of messed up supply chain, right? COVID kind of messed up supply chains. On top of that, also at the same time, us being at war, in a trade war with China. So you've got a really, we import a lot of stuff from China. Matter of fact, if I were like to look at this shirt, it probably would on the tag say made in China. So like we get a lot of stuff imported from China, and because of the trade war, it's becoming expensive to import those things, or almost impossible because whatever, they're stopping us from getting it because of the trade war. So the pandemic and the trade war together have created a massive supply shortage with people sitting on tons of money that want to buy stuff, and they can't. They can't even buy it online. There's no supply there. One of the big things that you may have heard of is a supply shortage in chips. So many technological things out right now that are going to require these computer chips to be, inside of them, right? You have autonomous vehicles. They're all going to need computer chips. Um, and that's really one of the biggest things is this EV market, because it's not just Tesla anymore. It's literally every car company out here right now is focusing on transitioning their company to creating EV products. You get what I'm saying? Because I'm telling you, within the next 100 years, that's where we're headed to. 100% reliance on electricity. I digress. Don't let me get off topic. All right. So that kind of dynamic created a supply shortage, which we're facing right now. It's not good. It's just not good at all. Because these companies know that there's going to be an increase in spending as soon as the country opens up. So what are they going to do? Remember, back to prices. You're going to raise the prices, right? Now, let's talk about what Biden just said with the wages and capital gains tax. This one, I think, is a bigger detriment to people over a longer period of time versus the pandemic and a supply shortage, inflation factors, right? Why do I say that? Because an increase in wages means that these companies just are currently right now trying to recoup from the loss that they just took, and you're telling them, okay, on top of that, you're now going to have to pay your workers more money. Small businesses are going to literally end up going bankrupt because they can't afford it. They're going to have to raise their prices. People are not going to shop at a mom and pop store where these prices are massively expensive when I go to Walmart and get the same exact item for half that price. You get what I'm saying? So mom and pop stores are struggling, and they're going to end up going out of business because of this increase in wages, which means less jobs available for low-income earners, right? Mom and pop stores are usually low-income earning places unless you are the owner, right? On top of that, capital gains tax. So anybody that knows what a capital gains tax is, capital is just cash, right? It doesn't have to be physical cash. It could be a coin. It could be a dollar, digital, whatever it is. It's money, right? That's what capital is. But you take that capital, that money, and you put it into something else that's going to bring you back a return, right? A dividend, an interest payment, rental income, whatever. That's what's called a capital gain. You gained profit off of your capital, okay? We are going to tax that profit, okay? That's what capital gains tax is. Now, you may think that at the lowest end that that's not going to affect you, right? Because Biden has been saying that he's going to put this on higher tax brackets, right? So if you're someone making over $500,000, $400,000 a year, you're the one that's going to feel this. But guess what? The people that are making that type of money are people that own businesses that you're employed in, right? So guess what? They got to pay more taxes. That comes more out of their profit. On top of, they've got to pay you more money to employ you. Guess where all that goes back to? The prices. They're going to have to increase their prices to cover the losses that they're about to take for this massive situation and dynamic that just is all hitting us all at once, right? Supply shortage, pandemic, wages, trade war, capital gains taxes, all pushing inflation, which means that prices are going to go up across the board, not just one sector. We're talking about everything that you can think of is about to become more expensive in America over the next 5 to 10 years, because that's what this inflation is going to do. It's not going to hit us tomorrow and like, oh shit, everything's super expensive tomorrow. We took a year from now, you can be like, stuff's getting more expensive. 2 years from now, you're like, 3 years, 4 years, you're like, everything is super expensive now. So even though they're about to raise the wages in this country, the businesses are the ones that are going to be affected by that. Now you just couple that with that capital gains tax. It's just like, it's a super whammy. Now you, low income earner, how is this going to affect you? And I'm going to keep telling this to people. The more you get paid, the less help you have to do your job. That's how companies work. I got to pay you more. I can't pay or I can't hire as many people to do this job. It costs too much. So the guy that was, or the job that required 3 people now is going to have 1 person doing 3 people's worth of work. Yeah, you're getting paid more, but you're also working longer hours with less help doing more work. That's how increases in wages affect you, Mr. Low Income Earner. Increase in wages per hour does not affect the salary person. So everybody's like, oh, an increase in wages is a good thing. Not really. Because if you look at the long-term effects of an increase on wages, you can see how it will just make everything more expensive and it'll just be a cycle. It's just be a circle. Raise the wages so we can afford the stuff that got expensive. Stuff gets more expensive. And it just keeps going higher and higher and higher and higher. And it's just a circle, man. Because that's the system that we created. And that's the whole point of this video. Inflation is about to affect all the people that are middle class and low income earners. On top of that, because of Biden's capital gains tax and increase in wages, it's about to affect the 1% too. So when everything that's just happened is literally affecting the entire populace of the United States, that's a problem. This is why I'm trying to tell you, this inflation right now is going to be bad for the youngest generation. My generation, which was born in the 80s and the 90s, guess what? They're struggling right now. If you don't have a college degree right now, you're probably struggling. Like 90% of you who don't have a college degree are probably struggling. 10% of you are probably living a middle class life, and maybe like 0.5% of you are actually rich and wealthy. Or living beyond your means is really what you could call it. So for those 90% that are struggling, guess what? That inflation is really about to affect your life. Let me give you an example. 1986, the year I was born, my father bought a house in New Jersey for $75,000. That's the house that he currently lives in right now. $75,000 in 1986. 35 years later, that house is now assessed at a value of $220,000. That is 3 times the value. A little less than 3 times, but that's 3 times the value. So over a 30-year period, the house has appreciated 3 times. So on average, you can say every 10 years it appreciated 100%, right? So after the first 10 years, the house was worth $150,000. You know, after the next 20, 30 years, it was worth what it is now. Okay? So think about that. If that pace continues, that means that this house now will then be worth it in 30 years, $600,000 or more. That's what your kids are about to have to deal with. That's what the youngest generation is going to have to deal with. And you're going to tell them, oh yeah, take out a loan for that. Go ahead and take out a mortgage on that. So here's another thing. Right now, currently, the median or the average price for New Jersey homes is $500,000. It just went up $100,000 from last year. Nobody's got that type of money, bro. That's New Jersey. And that's the majority of the East Coast or Northeast Coast. That's what you're looking to be spending. Anywhere from $250,000 to $500,000 on average for a house in the Northeast Coast. It's probably more for the West Coast. Okay? So the cheapest value homes are in the South and in the middle of the country, right? Why? Because that's a lot of land there. You know, the land's cheap. Property taxes are lower, yada, 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 right? On top of, natural disasters, right? So Northeast coast doesn't really have natural disasters except for maybe snowstorms or maybe a hurricane every now and then. But other than that, we don't get natural disasters like crazy. Like down in the South, you have tornadoes, literally could destroy everything. Hurricanes, earthquakes, things like that. Those are things that you have to deal with. Fires, droughts, bad water conditions. There's a whole bunch of stuff that when you go to move to those areas where cheaper property values, that's what you're going to deal with. So people that live in high property value areas, if you're struggling, if you're someone that lives in New Jersey or the Northeast coast and you're struggling, somebody lives on the West Coast and you're struggling, it's about to get worse for you. The next 5-10 years, everything's about to get so much more expensive. Okay? So I hope that I've explained to you inflation well enough. I hope that you understand kind of how that's going to affect you in the most immediate sense. It's about to affect your prices. But over the long term, it's going to affect everything. It's going to affect every single person in this country. Okay? Long term, I mean from a year from now and on. A year or more. Okay? Short term to me is anything under a year. So that's what's about to happen. I hope that you guys are paying attention to these things because it's really important. Financially, this is really about to affect your country. It's going to affect your children, your children's children, your grandchildren. It's going to affect you. You're all out there fighting over Democrats and Republicans, and you're not focusing on the true issue. The true issue is that there are people in this country who are struggling who should not be. Why? Because the system is corrupted. It's corrupted, and we let it be corrupted, and we just don't know how to fight against it. But because of that, I'm telling you, some of you right now, the oldest generation, they're established. They have their houses, they have their estates, all that stuff. They got everything they need, most of those people, right? But your children and your grandchildren, I'm telling you, there's going to be no retirement. You can't retire. How are you going to be able to retire? Right now, today in 2021, retirement amount on average to retire with $50,000 of income year on year, year over year, you need to have $5 million invested in order to have that type of return and live off of $50,000 for the rest of your life once you retire. Who's making $5 million in their lifetime? Somebody that's making $25, $30, $40, $50,000 is not making $5 million in their lifetime. Okay? They can work out all the overtime they want, all the side hustles they want. And that, you know what I mean? Like, I could go on for days about the system, but inflation, keep an eye on it, guys. They're talking about it right now, and I've been trying to tell people. I told people that this 6 months ago, a year ago, that all this stimulus is just going to hit us with inflation. I literally was telling my boy like 3 months ago, we was having a conversation about it, and I told him, I said, bro, what's going to happen is everything you're going to just hear them talking about inflation. I'm telling you, I said, in the next couple of months, what you're about to hear is them talking about inflation. Why? Because I was like, because once the country starts getting back to normal, all that stuff that we did to kind of keep it from falling apart, all that stuff's going to start hitting us at once, and we're going to start feeling the effects of that. I'm telling you, inflation, you're about to see it. If you are not on the right side of inflation, you are about to get boned. I hope that YouTube will let me say that word because that's the truth. You're about to feel it in a very bad way. I'm not trying to over-exaggerate. I'm not trying to be a fear monger. I'm trying to be a realist. If you're already struggling, you're about to struggle more. America's about to see a huge increase in homeless population across the country. Not just the coastlines, but across the country. Because these real estate values are going skyrocketing. And the younger and younger generations cannot afford to buy a home. My dad literally put, like, I think 80% down on that house. You get what I'm saying? Who do you know can put 80% down on a house now that's worth $200,000? I can't put $80,000 on that. You get what I'm saying? So you need to have these conversations with your children. All right, talk about money, help them to understand how to manage it properly. Get invested. Real estate, security assets like stocks and bonds and ETFs and stuff like that, or own a business. All three would be better, but if you're not invested, you're going to be on the wrong side of inflation. Inflation is going to appreciate those assets. It's going to depreciate the dollar value of anything that's holding a dollar value, right? So that dollar of water, you know what I mean? That water bottle that cost me $1 is going to cost me $1.06 next year. $1.10, something, you know what I mean? Whatever the inflation rate is. And it's going to keep going that way, as it always has, because that's how we push our economy. It's literally created to do this and to move forward like this always and forever until we one day decide to break that cycle. So like I said, man, right now, since there's nothing I can do to change the system, you need to be invested. Get an asset. Get a hold of some assets. Straight up. It's easier than ever to be invested. There are YouTube videos out there of people that are really trying to provide you with good information on how to improve your life. Look it up, man. We are in the information age, meaning that any type of information or data you need, you can access very quickly. So, like I said, I digress. Let's go back to inflation. Inflation is happening right now. You're going to get affected by it now for the next year, for the next 5 to 10 years. You're going to feel the effects of this stimulus, trade war, pandemic, trifecta dynamic. Because of all that stuff that hit us at the same exact time, you're about to really, really, really be affected by inflation. Like I said, it's not about over-exaggerating. It's not about fear-mongering. I'm trying to educate you and help you to understand what is about to happen and how it's going to affect you negatively. But the people that it's really, truly going to affect the most negatively is the youngest generations. I'm trying to get the older generation to understand you left us a mess. Stop trying to tell us that we're lazy. You left us a mess. An entire world that appreciated in value 3 to 4 times and accept wages, accept pay. So now you've got all these people who are not making enough money to even be able to handle the things. And like I said, I'll go into that a whole lot later because that goes down the debt standard that that I could explain to you guys and go in depth about. But like I said, at the end of the day, get invested. Straight up, guys. So that's been Financial Friday. I hope that was some useful information. I hope that I explained it better for you to understand inflation, kind of at least in the current situation that's going on. If you want me to do more videos on inflation, let me know. Any topics that you want me to really discuss, leave it down in the comments below. Let me know. Hey, that was a great topic. We didn't like that. This information was wrong. This information was right. Hey, you're an idiot. Hey, you're great. Whatever you want to tell me, let me know in the comments below. One thing I will not tolerate, though, is racism and complete nonsense. Rudeness, any type of nonsense like that is going to get your comment deleted immediately and probably have you banned from the channel. It's not a threat. Just understand, man, like we're here to have a healthy debate, a healthy discussion, an intelligent one, one with points and facts and evidence and proof and sources, not one with a bunch of hearsay. You start throwing hearsay and no evidence and you can't provide it, and you hit me with some stupid source like The Onion or something dumb like that. No one's ever heard of this place. I'm I'm not going to argue with you. I'm just going to sit there and be like, okay, whatever, and then delete your comment, because I'm not going to allow you to. You're allowed to your opinion, but you're not allowed to say your opinion is a fact. All right, that's not something you can do. Okay, so like I said, you got questions, whatever you like this stuff. If you like the Financial Friday series, let me know. Let me know how you guys feel about this one. Inflation is here. Get invested now, today, last week. You need to be there. Okay, so thank you guys for tuning in and listening. I will see you guys probably next Friday when I have another topic. All right, so see you guys then.